Hello, and welcome to Teen Book Bites. My name is Teresa, and I will be your host today. In honor of Black History Month, librarians from all across Los Angeles are here to share with you some amazing books for teens written by Black authors. All the books being shared with you today are available through the library, either digitally or physically through the library catalog, and available for pickup at one of our 26 Library to Go locations across the city. The story of Black History Month begins in the summer of 1915 when a man named Carter G. Woodson traveled from Washington, D.C. to Chicago to participate in a national celebration of the 50th anniversary of emancipation. Thousands of African Americans traveled to Chicago from all over the country to see exhibits which highlighted the progress they had made since the destruction of slavery. Inspired by the celebration, Woodson decided to form an organization to promote the study of Black life and history, which would become the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. He hoped that others would popularize the findings that he and other Black intellectuals had published and urged Black civic organizations to promote those achievements. In February of 1926, Negro History was created. Woodson chose February to honor two people who played a significant role in shaping Black history, Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass, men who the Black community had long supported and whose birthdays were in February. In 1976, President Gerald Ford officially recognized Black History Month, calling upon the public to seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. The recent wave of worldwide protests sparked by the killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and too many others highlighted the injustices and violence Black Americans continue to face. Today, we honor Woodson's tradition and focus on a few Black authors and their stories about the Black experience. So without further ado, let's talk about some books. First up is Kathy. Hi, Kathy.
Hi. Hello. I'm going to be talking today about Stamped. It should be coming up on the screen there. The blurb on the book's back says that book is not a book about history. It's a book about the here and now. It's a book about race. The title is a quote from Jefferson Davis, Mississippi Senator and President of the Confederacy. He said that the iniquity of the Black and white races was stamped from the very beginning. The first version of this book was written by Boston University professor Ibram Kendi, and it won the National Book Award. Jason Reynolds, well-known young adult author, joined in making it more accessible to young adult readers, hence the name Stamped Racism, Anti-Racism, and You, a Remix. These two authors created a through line using the lives of five people scattered throughout United States history. They include Cotton Mather, the Puritan minister, Thomas Jefferson, our third president, and abolitionist William Lloyd Garrison, sociologist W.E. Du Bois, and educator Angela Davis. There are side trips into cultural touchstones such as Uncle Tom's Cabin, Tarzan and the Apes, and Phyllis Wheatley, and the boxer Jack Johnson, and movies including Rocky and Birth of a Nation. The afterword of the book leads you, the reader, to consider the question, where do you stand? As a segregationist, aka a hater, a assimilationist, aka a coward, or aka a anti-racist, a person that loves history, loves people and history. So I encourage you very strongly to read it. Racism and overt racism especially has a tendency to crawl under a rock during different times of history, and now is the time to kind of kick over the rock and take a look. So again, thank you very much, and I hope that you read this book.
Thank you, Kathy. It sounds terrific. I love Jason Reynolds. I loved his book.
Yeah, he's really good.
A long way down. Next up is Camille with This Is America. This is My America.
Hi. I love Stamped as well, but today I want to share a book called This Is My America. In This Is My America, a young girl, Tracy Beaumont, never fails to write a weekly letter to Innocence X. She wants to try to get help for her father, who is an innocent man on death row, and time is running out, and her dad only has 275 days left. Meanwhile, her brother Jamal is invited to do a live interview spotlighting top scholar athletes on a world news program. And Tracy seizes this opportunity to make a desperate plea on live TV, going so far as to falsely claim that there's new evidence on her father's case. Then a horrible tragedy occurs. Jamal's friend Angela is found dead, and Jamal is the prime suspect in her death. Fearing for himself, Jamal ends up going on the run. Will her brother's fate be the same as her dad's? Definitely not if Tracy can do anything about it. The police are convinced that Jamal is guilty, but Tracy knows he's innocent, and she sets out to prove that innocence. She's determined to find out what really happened to Angela, but first, Tracy has to get to Jamal and get him to turn himself in before anything else happens. Kim Johnson's debut book is not just a whodunit story, but it's also a commentary on the criminal justice system and how justice could possibly prevail against overwhelming odds. It's a powerful book, and it's definitely not one to be missed.
That sounds amazing. Actually, I want to read that one. Thank you, Camille. Next up is Amanda.
Hi, so today I'm going to be talking about a pair of books that are on the younger end of the YA spectrum, titles we often call middle grade because they're aimed at kids in upper elementary school and middle school. First up is New Kid, the Newbery Award and Coretta Scott King Award-winning graphic novel by author and illustrator Jerry Craft. If there is one book that I wish I could go back in time and give myself when I was 12, a biracial Black girl in a mostly white school, it's New Kid. Not just because it forthrightly acknowledges the challenges and indignities that students of color can face in non-diverse environments, but because it's entertaining and funny. And the main character, Jordan's homemade comics, skewers school life with a keen eye and engaging humor. Jordan Banks' parents send him to an affluent, mostly white private school far from his majority Black neighborhood in Washington Heights. He's an aspiring artist, but his parents want him to have academic options, so he has to go to Riverdale Academy Day School, abbreviated as RADS. As an example of the humor in the book, the school sports teams are the tadpoles, called the Tads, and their mascot, an animated tadpole, is named Brad. So there's just a whole bunch of things in this book that make you giggle all along the way. The book is livened up by Jordan's comics about his life, like an illustration of the transformation he goes through on the bus every morning from Washington Heights to Riverdale, starting out in a hoodie and sunglasses to fit in, and finishing near Riverdale with no sunglasses and no hoodie, careful even to not work on his drawings because he's concerned that the mostly white people on the bus at that point may assume he's planning to use his markers to tag the bus. At school, Jordan has to deal with a campus dotted with buildings that share the names of affluent students. Teachers and students confuse the few Black students on campus with one another. And he also has to participate in a fall sport, like a sport that he has never played before, which is soccer. So he's confronting a lot of new things, but also a lot of challenges that many kids don't face when they're in a more diverse school. New Kid shows how Jordan navigates all the different aspects of his life, home and school, his desire to be an artist tempered with his parents' expectations. The story will appeal to anyone who loved Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and the art is straightforward and super engaging, kind of like Brianna Telgemeier's drama. But most importantly, New Kid is a wonderful book all its own, presenting a creative and relatable main character and representing experiences that haven't often been portrayed in middle grade graphic novels.
Thanks, Amanda. I actually read it, and it was pretty terrific because I was also a kid of color who went to an all-white school, so I could totally relate. Kind of reminds me of like the Sherman Alexi's book as well, right? Okay. Well, thank you, Amanda. Next up is Patsy.
Hi, I'm delighted to be here today to talk to you about Just Mercy. Hopefully there it is on the screen now. Adapted for young adults, a true story of the fight for justice by Bryan Stevenson. As the title indicates, this is a special adaptation of Stevenson's New York Times bestseller, Just Mercy, A Story of Justice and Redemption. This title is actually nonfiction, so it's the true account of Bryan Stevenson's work as an activist lawyer, fighting the injustices and iniquities in the American criminal justice system. Stevenson himself grew up in a poor, rural, and racially segregated community in southern Delaware. and he is the direct descendant of great-grandparents who had been enslaved. The opposite of poverty is not wealth. The opposite of poverty is justice. This is just one of the memorable and thought-provoking lines from the book. Bryan Stevenson argues that our criminal justice system often treats you better if you are rich and guilty than if you are poor and innocent, and how that poverty can often be directly linked to a history of racial discrimination in this country. The book mainly focuses on the story of Walter McMillan, an African-American man wrongly convicted of killing a white woman. Mr. McMillan spent 6 years on Alabama's death row before his lawyer, Bryan Stevenson, the author of the book, during a 5th legal appeal, was able to successfully argue that Mr. McMillan had been wrongfully convicted. McMillan was eventually had his sentence overturned and all charges dismissed, but not before being subjected to the extreme injustices of his case. This book will make you angry. It may shock you, but hopefully it will encourage you to fight iniquities in your own community and beyond. There is also a message of hope in the book, and it stresses that all of us are in need of mercy and that everyone is entitled to justice. Because when we allow others to be mistreated, we are all implicated as a society. Thank you.
Thank you, Patsy. So true. I actually read his book, Just Mercy, and it was heartbreaking.
It's hard. Yeah, it's just amazing. It's an amazing book. But
I learned things that I had no idea. I mean, it does open up your eyes, and
it really does. It really does. Definitely worth a read.
Thank you, Patsy. Next up is Nancy.
Hi, my book is The Black Flamingo, and it's a little bit different than the books we've been talking about so far. It's just a story of one person's journey. Michael Agnelli, the main character of Dean Atta's novel and verse, The Black Flamingo, has never fit in. Michael is a mixed-race gay teen growing up in London. All his life, he's been made to feel he's not black enough, not white enough, not British enough, not Greek enough, not Jamaican enough, not man enough, and even not queer enough. He's always felt isolated and alone. Only his mother has ever loved him for exactly who he is. Michael discovers at an early age that he is somehow different from other boys. Michael wants a Barbie doll when his schoolmates ask for Ninja Turtles. He notices that his younger sister, Anna, has a freedom he can only dream of. Anna gets Phoebe, my old Barbie doll, and my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Anna gets my dungarees and all my other old clothes too. I notice when Anna plays with my turtles, no one asks her why. I notice when Anna wears my dungarees, no one comments. I'm glad she is free to play and dress however she feels happy. The Black Flamingo explores not only Michael's queer identity, but also his Black identity. After Michael and his uncle are pulled over by the police for no good reason, he learns a brutal lesson. This is what it's like to be Black in this country or anywhere in the world. They interrupt our joy, our history, our progress. They know they can't stop us unless they kill us, but they can't kill us all. So you're living your life and suddenly interrupted by white fear or suspicion. They fear sharing anything. Our success is a threat. As Michael grows from boy to man, he takes baby steps towards finding his true self. At age 7, he takes on his mother's surname to distance himself from a father who cannot love him. He grows from a child who cries over being bullied at school to being the young man who cries over being rejected by a schoolboy crush, to finally being a man who can survive even a broken heart. Michael learns that he loves music and poetry and plans to become a writer. But when he attends college, he finds his real passion, appearing on stage in drag. On stage, it is possible for Michael to unite song, verse, and performance and forge a glittering new identity as the Black Flamingo. But will he be brave enough to do it? As Michael waits backstage in his pink wig, fluffy faux fur coat, ballet tutu, and 4-inch stiletto heels, he longs for the spotlight but also feels stage fright. When it's time to go on stage, know that you're not ready. But this is not about being ready. It's not even about being fierce or fearless. It's about being free. He is me, who I have been, who I am, who I hope to become. Someone fabulous, wild, and strong, with or without a costume on. This is a story about loving yourself, overcoming your fears, and learning to accept all the layers of identity that make up a human being. The verse is warm, uplifting, and hopeful, while never forgetting the hard truths that must be faced by an outsider like Michael. It doesn't matter what age you come out. Be a beautiful thing. Be the moonlight too. Remember you have the right to be proud. Remember you have the right to be you. To follow Michael Agnelli on his path of self-discovery, read The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta.
Thank you, Nancy. That sounds terrific. It's got to be really hard for boys, but it's easier for girls to dress up as boys, but the opposite is just not accepted. So we need more books like this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nancy. And next up is Zipa.
Hello. Hi, I'm here to talk about a middle grade book that was just published last year in 2020. It's called The Only Black Girls in Town by Brandy Colbert. It's a book about a 12-year-old California surfer, Alberta. Alberta happens to be the only Black girl in the small town her two dads raised her in until the bed and breakfast in the neighborhood is purchased by Brooklyn transplants Adie and her mom. Adie is also a 12-year-old Black girl, but she misses her East Coast diverse Brooklyn neighborhood and has to adjust to life in the small California beach town as the only goth girl in town. Adie and Alberta quickly become close friends, and they have a mystery to unsolve, which helps them become close friends. They discover historical journals in the attic of the bed and breakfast, and they go through the journals together and read them. These are journals that happen to be from California of the 50s and 60s. Adie and Alberta look for clues in the journals to find the rightful owner of the historical journals so that they can return them to the rightful owner. This is a really fun book, especially since I'm from California. It talks about San Luis Obispo, Pismo Beach, and surfing. And then really cool to hear about Adie, the goth girl that no one's ever seen someone wearing black lipstick in this small beach town. So definitely check this out. I did the audiobook version on Libby, and I really enjoyed it. Highly recommend The Only Black Girls in Town by Brandy Colbert. Thank you.
Thank you, Ziva. I love that cover. I love the goth girl. She's so cute. Next up is Camille. You Should See Me in a Crown.
Thanks, Teresa. Hi. I'm sharing You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. It's prom season at Campbell County High, and everywhere Liz lightly turns, there are promposals and flash mobs, but she couldn't care anything about all of that. All she wants to do is to go to Pennington, the college of her dreams, and get on the fast track to the rest of her life. She's just waiting for her musical scholarship to come through, but then it doesn't. And Liz doesn't make it into the orchestra. She doesn't get her scholarship, and she's afraid that she may never reach her goal of becoming a doctor. But then her brother Robbie reminds her that the school gives out a scholarship for prom queen. Liz, lightly band geek, feels like she's the least likely person to ever win prom queen, but her group of oddball friends all rally behind her to turn her into a real prom queen contender. The competition is fierce, it's full of rivals, including her arch nemesis, and Liz has to deal with not only microaggressions, she has to take part in bake-offs, volunteer service, and public appearances, all the while battling her own personal struggles and anxiety. There are a few bright spots, like Mac, the new girl, whom Liz is crushing on hard. Can Liz, the favorite underdog, beat out the rest of the competition to win the crown? This book is funny, it's heartfelt, it's romantic. It's also a debut book from Leah Johnson, and it was also a Stonewall Honor Book of 2021.
Yay! I love those kind of books about prom and the kids are geeky, that want to be. Okay, Amanda. We can't hear you, Amanda. I think you're on mute.
There we go. Sorry about that. Biddy Mason Speaks Up by Arissa White, Laura Atkins, and Laura Freeman. Biddy Mason Speaks Up is an entry in the Heyday Books' excellent series on the lives of important and influential Californians that began with the excellent Fred Korematsu Speaks Up. Bridget Biddy Mason, as most Angelinos know, is an important Black Angelino who once owned significant portions of downtown Los Angeles, helped found our own first African Methodist Episcopal Church, FAME. Bridget Mason was a midwife who delivered generations of Black Angelinos, provided aid and sustenance to orphans, inspiring FAME's Biddy Mason Foundation, which today provides support and assistance to young people in the foster care system. But did you know that Bridget Mason was brought to Los Angeles enslaved and earned her freedom by speaking up and telling her story to a judge? Rather than a straight up history, the authors build the book as a creative act of repairing the historical record, of imagining Biddy Mason's life based on all the information and stories we could gather. This book includes illustrations and poetry, photos, a glossary, and facts. The nonfiction parts present archival photographs. They have vocabulary words, timelines, and prompts, allowing readers to reflect on their own lives. The book does not shy away from the cruelty of slavery. It includes brief descriptions of brutal whippings and rape, scenes which are explained in greater detail in the notes. I love the Speaks Up series, and Biddy Mason's story is just a great addition to it. Her impact on our city, which has been home to Black people since its founding day, is immense. Her descendants still live here, and they are still active in preserving her memory. There's also a small park dedicated to Bridget Mason in downtown Los Angeles behind the Bradbury Building, which sits on the land that Bridget Mason once owned. If you haven't been, you should go. And if you haven't read this excellent book about the life of Biddy Mason, check out Biddy Mason Speaks Up by Arissa White, Laura Atkins, and Laura Freeman. And I also recommend this book, even though it is an upper elementary school to middle grades book. I recommend it for all ages. I've read it and I really enjoyed it. It is available on Hoopla. I would like to share my screen and show it off on Hoopla if I can. There we go. Okay, so this is our platform Hoopla Digital, which is a streaming book service, and this is Biddy Mason Speaks Up, which has this great illustration style. It's really easy to read digital. You can also check it out in print from our Library to Go program, and seem to be having some problems. There we go. Biddy Mason Speaks Up. Yes. So I just kind of wanted to give everybody an idea of the format of the book. For instance, there's illustrations, there's poems, how Bridget Mason, young Bridget Mason, learned about healing as imagined by the ancestors, or pardon me, imagined by the authors from her ancestors. So there's a poem about that, but then there's also information about the native plants that young Bridget Mason might have used. There's information about slavery and midwifery. So there's just a lot in this book, but it's all accessible to upper elementary school and middle school students. It's also accessible to adults like us. It's just a really great book, and I encourage everyone to have a look, check it out.
Thank you, Amanda. I like the layout of the book, actually. I didn't know anything about her. So
definitely check it out. She led an amazing life. And I think it's wonderful that her descendants are still part of Los Angeles today and still active in promoting and preserving her memory.
Thank you. Thank you, Amanda, and a big thanks to all our librarians for sharing some of their favorite books with us today. Please join us next month for Teen Book Bites on Monday, March 22nd at 3 p.m., where we will share Battle of the Books recommendations. And don't forget to tune into the Los Angeles Public Library's YouTube and Facebook Live channels for Teen-tastic Tuesday programs at 4 p.m. on most Tuesdays. Thank you, everybody.